We're going to give them some feedback on this, and I think it's relevant, basically because it's about how to pick someone in an election, right? We've tried to talk about that throughout the semester together because I think this campaign and this election has been so historic. So here's what this company wants us to do. They want us to play like it's the year 2075, okay? Right? How old will you be in 2075? Okay. 74. I'll be dead. So here's the deal. We've lost the war. We have to pay the winning side $500 trillion. California, Texas has to be given to Mexico. Oregon and Washington are being given to Canada. Right?
You want to leave Cali?
Okay. Cali's gone.
How dare you?
Our U.S. military is being cut to only 100,000 men. Our Air Force and our Navy are being taken from us. There's hyperinflation. Look, to get a quarter pounder with cheese, what's it going to cost you? Okay? Beef costs $1 million a pound. There's widespread hunger. Industry is coming into the hands of the wealthy few. There's 25% unemployment. In some places it's as high as 4 out of 10 people don't have work. And there's gangs that are running rampant throughout society, and they're acting as if they are legit, that they're political parties. I'd like you to look, if you're living in the year 2075 and you are engaged in this election, what do you want your political leaders to focus on? If someone says, get the military back. By show of hands, how many of you think that's important? Getting back our military. All right, several of you think getting the military back. How about getting food for families, opening up jobs, the unemployment issue? How many of you feel that? Wow. Okay, that might be our most important thing, right? So unemployment, the hunger.
Right now, but we're gonna need like new techniques for if
okay.
we have to go to war again.
New techniques of what though?
Military techniques,
okay.
New technology, stuff like that.
Like to me, public education is important. Why? That's where I get paid. Okay, all right? I'm a teacher. And so I look first at what candidates are doing about that. It scares me that President-elect Trump has named a lady that really doesn't like public education as our education secretary, all right? It might not scare you because you may not have any vested interest in that, right? My fellow Americans, I am so happy to be with you today. So happy to be with you. I know I stand before you as your president, and you're very, very sad. You're sad because we lost the war, and I understand, I feel the pain. But I've got a plan. Re-elect me, if you will, as your president, and I promise you, we'll be a people that abide by the treaty that was put upon us, but we'll have honor because we're abiding by that treaty. I also want you to understand that what I'm going to do is give tax breaks to the rich. Because if the rich have more money, they'll generate some work and put you to work, young women, so you can feed your children. And so, if you will, please re-elect me, Paul Hinman, as your president. Thank you. Thank you very much. So let me ask you something. When you get to actually be a part of a real election, where are you going to go find information about what these people stand for? Anybody? And what this little simulation game is supposed to help you do is learn how to look at the candidates. In this case, I just told you what this guy's platform was. Let's look at him, if you will, together, all right? Does he talk about the military?
No.
Okay. Does he talk about unemployment?
Yeah.
How?
He said it's going to tax the rich.
Untax the rich. Okay, so tax breaks for the rich. All right. Does he talk about hunger?
Yes.
All right, through this. Do you know this is called trickle-down economics? I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Remember Hillary made fun of Trump during the campaign. What was she called? Trump-down economics is what she called it. Okay? All right?
No, Trump up something.
Trumped up something, all right? All right, crime. Inflation. The lost lands.
Yes. He said
How?
we'll just have to deal with it.
Okay? So, give it to him. What about Dustin? Thank you. I'm so proud to be here today. I stand and salute you as citizens of the United States. Who were our best presidents? Let me ask you, sir, do you know who our first president was?
Washington?
He was, sir. It was Washington. And what was George Washington?
He was an army.
He was a general. That's what he was. When we are led by military officers, our nation is great. Where does he fall? Does he talk about the military?
That's the whole thing.
Okay, right. Does he talk about unemployment?
No.
All right. Hunger?
No.
Crime?
No.
Inflation?
No.
Lost land?
No.
Well,
Kinda.
You would think, right, with the military?
No.
Better deal with the winners.
basically.
How about crush the winners? Okay, all right, what is some extra stuff about this? Workers of the world unite. That is what I say. We as American people can be great again if we combine those of us who have never had, and we take what is left from the have and separate out equally to each and every one. What about this guy?
He's
So
communist.
okay, all right, so we learned about communism, right? Does he talk about the military?
No.
What about unemployment? Thank you.
I'm kind of Joseph.
Thank you very much. I'd like for you, if you will, to stand at your desk. Stand at your desk. I'd like, if you will, to put your hands over your heart. And I'd like for you to look at this beautiful piece of cloth here. And I'd like for you to say, I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the United States.
to the United States
Of America.
of America.
Say that. My American people, I stand before you today as a veteran of the war that we just lost. And I stand before you today to tell you that the treaty that we were forced to sign under my leadership. Oh, she knows. It's gone. I tell you right here and now, we will not go with this any longer. I have a plan which will put each and every one of you to work if you will elect me your leader. I have a plan that what will happen is you and you and you can have a free college education if you desire it, so that our people can be better. And so I tell you, my fellow Americans, if you will elect me right here and now, we will indeed be a great nation. Thank you very much. All right. So let's take this guy. Does he talk about the military?
Yeah.
All right. Does he talk about unemployment? Does he talk about hunger, crime, inflation, lost land?
Yes.
And what you've done is what I want you to learn from this, is how to sit down. You may have one thing that's important to you, but vet out those candidates and see what do they stand for. So understand that you got to look at the issues. So let's have our election, if you will, by a show of hands. How many of you would like the second guy to be your president, Mr. Ted Dustin? Hands. How many of you would like the third guy to be your president, Mr. Turner? How many of you would like the fourth guy, Mr. Albert Hunter, to be your next president? If you will, lift up your head, and if you will look, by a landslide vote, 0 for the incumbent, 1 for the military guy, 0 for the communist, 26 for Adolf Hitler.
I told us to run in a third case.
A recount, that's what we're hearing right now, right? Recount, okay. I want to apologize to you because I hate lying. But I didn't want you to catch on. Because what you really were doing was looking at the situation in Germany in 1932. all those scenarios that you were living in 2075, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to lie, okay? And the reason why I lied to you and told you it was a stupid game and stuff was if you knew we were talking about Germany, would you have ever voted for Hitler? No. Well, maybe you would. Okay, all right? Okay, all right? But understand that the people in 1932 Germany didn't know what was about to happen to them, okay? All they knew was the message, and the message was appealing. It was great, to be honest with you, okay? Because isn't it scary to know that by a landslide, you voted for Adolf Hitler, right? Guys, I've been doing this game for years. He wins every time, right? I want you to type for me your feelings of why you voted for who you voted for. And how do you feel now that you actually know who it was?
I voted for the aggressive military leader.
Why?
Because I feel like without a stronger military, we would just become vulnerable to anybody.
Okay.
And if somebody decided that they did want to attack us, we wouldn't be able to do anything because no one would help us because we just lost a world war. No one likes us.
Anybody swayed by Seth's opinion? Anybody agree? Manny, I see you shaking your head. Okay, you want to add to that? Do you think your candidate, the one you chose, would have fit the same needs?
I feel like that sometimes whenever people say like, oh, I have a plan, I have a plan, it doesn't always work out to that. It's like everybody was like, oh, Obama had a perfect plan when he was first elected, and then it took him like 8 years to even get what he wanted.
Okay, then yeah.
I voted for Hunter because he said everything that needed to be said, and it sounded good. I actually believe that he could get everything done, and I believe that he was the best.
And guess what? You're going to be scared when I tell you this. He did that. What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was gonna say like, hit all the major points to fix the major issues. I say we should give him a chance.
Bryce, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I voted for him because we just went through the toughest times ever. You know, when somebody tells you what they want you to hear, then it's easy to be swayed toward
It is. And if they tell you what you want to hear, and then they do it,
Yeah.
does that make them even more powerful? You find out, not only was he the perfect boyfriend, but now he's the perfect husband and the perfect lover, chihuahua, okay, all right? You get pregnant. He's so excited. When the baby's born, he's the perfect father. Girls, if your husband does this, hold on. When the baby wakes up screaming at night, he says, stay in bed, sweetheart, I had it. All right? And he takes care of the child's needs. There is a scene about a young man who 20 years before had brutally slain his family, stabbed them, tortured them, tried to chemically destroy them. Okay? And you're like, how many of you do you think, be honest, and really let's be honest, you don't know how you would react until you're put in this situation, okay? Yeah. But how many of you watching that TV and see that, and look at that nice house, look at that 96-inch TV, look at that car, and say, okay, all right, and walk away. Anybody think you would do that? Bryce is on, okay? What, Dad?
I mean, yeah, we were gay.
Okay. All right, look, Ashton, what you gonna say? Listen. Ashton.
Pretend you don't see it. Wait till he falls asleep. Kill him.
Oh my God. Here's what the German people faced. They elected this dude. They became in love with what he and his movement. They were called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Nazis for short. They had those choices: challenge, and if they did, they probably died. Okay. Run fast, and if they did, they had to do it soon because after a while they consolidated where they couldn't run away. All right. Or look the other way. And a lot of people look the other way. Why would you look the other way, Bryce?
Because life is good. Why worry?
Why rock the boat? All right? So listen to me. What Hitler is going to indoctrinate is a form of government we haven't looked at yet. And what I'd like to do for the rest of the class period is introduce you to that type of government, okay? It's called fascism. Reagan, I'm sorry I destroyed your notes, okay, all right? We're going to look at basically who began the concept of fascism. And we're going to decide, are there any fascists still in the world today? Now, look, right above where Amber's seated, there's a tile that someone painted for me. And that thing in the middle is a fascist. Oh, look, it's right here. You can see it here on the slide. It is a bundle of rods with an axe blade in the middle of it, all right? 20th century, there was a left-wing version of totalitarianism that ran rampant as well. Anybody know what that was? You actually mentioned it a little. We had a candidate. Thank you, Mr. Fuqua. It was communism, right? And so, in the 20th century, after World War I is over and there's devastation, physical, loss of life, everything, people turn to leaders who in many cases took advantage of this. They became totally in control. And some of them practiced this version of totalitarianism. Others will practice the communist version. Let me give to you a little handout. And I'd like for you, if you will, to read 2 quotes. And after reading 2 quotes, I'm going to put a slide up for you. I want you, in your mind, to define the word fascism. Tell me what you think the fascists were about. Who were they? All right, anybody ready to tell me what you think a fascist ideology is about? Miss Williams, what do you think?
Fascism is the ability to gain the people to follow you blindly because of what you can offer to the people.
Awesome. Anybody agree with that? That people follow you blindly because you can offer stuff to them? Mr. LaGrange, what did you put?
I put that they also believe that there should be separation of people. Some people are meant to be leaders, and some people are meant to be followers.
All right? So they weren't about equality, like an enlightened thinker said, right? They were more about social Darwinism. Would that be a word I think that they might follow suit with? That there are others who are weak, some who are strong, and the strong should be in charge. Anybody else want to comment about what you saw? Mr. Williams, what is something you think?
Fascists are like, or a couple people that believe in fascism, like kind of want complete control, and they kind of like blame some problems on like other groups.
Good. And why do you think they do that? Why would they blame someone for their problems?
Well, if you can blame someone, it'll get a lot of people to like, hey, I'll go after this person too. I'll agree with you.
It helps build that like herd mentality, right? If you went to the play last night, the wildebeest, they heard and they killed poor Mufasa, all right? And so those are called scapegoats, is what those are called. Right? We're going to fill out what the characteristics of fascism are together. And you're going to decide, do you think Mussolini and Hitler fit these characteristics when we get to talking about them in more detail in just a bit, all right? Ashton.
To control everyone in the state.
To control. It's a glorification of force. When I tried to portray Hitler in the speech, I was trying to show you this like, right, this feeling, right? Right? They're very anti-democratic, which is weird because he gets into power through democracy, right? Through becoming the chancellor. They constantly will use patriotic mantra, make America great again, right? They use symbols. The fascists were taught you have to believe, obey, and fight. The quote that you read from Mussolini was about war, was about domination. And that's what the fascists bought into. Why did the fascists use songs like this to rally people, all the symbology and all that kind of stuff? On your slide, if you will, what do you think the correlation is between us using roller coaster and EA Spartans and deuces? We do our cheers to get excited and also to set our school apart in its pride and dedication. Gets you pumped up, makes you feel proud. Again, pride, nationalism. And again, it's this reason why the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the fascist parties around the world that began to implement this type of ideology. Bryce.
Said it makes tradition, so it's going to be passed on from generation to
Okay.
generation, and when somebody tries to break that tradition, they get mad.
Good. And guess what? The Nazis believed that they would be in charge for 1,000 years. They truly thought that that's how long they would be in charge, right? They were trying to make plans for that, and they built in, as Bryce said, these type of propaganda techniques in order to get people to buy into it. Would you have been attracted? Many of you are, I think, honestly reflecting and saying, yes, I would have been drawn into this. Anyone want to tell the class what your thoughts are on that? Kennedy, what did you say?
That would have been drawn into.
One of the big things is that people like the feeling of having someone underneath them, right? One of the reasons why I get so mad in the hallway when I hear a lot of you say the word N-I-G-G-A is because N-I-G-G-A really is N-I-G-G-E-R. And it's a word that means lazy. Did you know that? That's what the word is defined as, right? And the reason why people of African American descent in this country are labeled that by people who don't like them is because when the slaves were freed after the Civil War, they were going after the same jobs as the poor white folk. And so they had to figure out a way to label them something so that when they went after the job, the lazy guy wasn't going to get it. Do you understand? Right? And it makes me furious to hear how y'all have taken that word and tried to make it into something that it really isn't. Right? It's truly disrespectful to use it because people fought for years to get that mantra taken away. Right? And so understand, having someone under you is very important. And Ryan mentioned having scapegoats. And so one of the other characteristics you need to be familiar with is that the fascists are going to use these scapegoats. And so they pick these people, they make them into the enemy, and they say, we will be a better nation, we will be in a better world if we get rid of that group. If we can blame them for all of our problems. So if you will, if you haven't started answering already, will you answer, why do you think they had to dehumanize the untouchables? In Nazi Germany, it was against the law for a good German to marry a Jewish person. Only allowing out there what the government wants out there. The book burning you saw in the video, that's controlling the media. Not allowing information to get to people. It as evil and bad, and we're not allowed. And so again, it was a male-dominated society. Militarism is another one of the characteristics of fascist dictators. When President Obama was elected in 2008 for his first term, people began to cry all kinds of things about him. He was labeled a socialist. He was labeled not even an American citizen. Actually, President-elect Trump was the leader of that, called the birther
I
movement.
thought Hillary was in 2008. She first did that.
Well, you know what? Remember, she had a very intense campaign against him when she was trying to become the Democratic nominee. And so the birther thing was something she did float out there as well, right? But the biggest thing that people kept saying throughout his first term, and you don't hear it as much now, but that he was a fascist, right? It was a way to make people think less of him. Because when we think of fascism, we automatically think of the Nazis. And when we think of the Nazis, we don't think about the economic miracle. What do we think about? The genocide, okay? And so what I'd like for you to do, using your chart, and what you know about the last 8 years of our federal government being operated by Barack Obama, does he fit those characteristics of being a fascist? Of course, the person who made this little poster believes, right? But was that poster based on fact? And I'd like for you to think about, again, you're old enough to know what's been going on the last few years of your life around you. Why do you say no?
Well, first of all, he's not a xenophobe and he's not sexist.
Okay.
And he doesn't control the media.
Okay.
I think the only thing I put a check for was militarism, but that's because, like, every leader should be, I think, in a way.
Which is interesting. He did cut the numbers of the military, but he has not abandoned our being abroad doing things militarily. And you know what? It probably kills his heart, because he truly wanted to withdraw our military presence around the globe, right? The necessity is that we have to be there. We've become, like we said yesterday, the policemen of the world, right? Using this chart, do you think that President-elect Trump fits the characteristics of being a fascist?
Oh, write something?
Is president, but
Please repeat that. Say it loud.
So, like, they aren't really fascist because there's only like one or two things, but everyone has like one or two things for them. So.
All right. Bryce.
I said he's very militaristic, and he does have some sort of xenophobia, but I believe that's nationalist.
Okay.
I don't really think he symbolises any of them.
All right. You don't think he symbolizes any of them. All right. So then, indeed, this call of him being a fascist, just like the call of President Obama being a fascist, is false. Let's hope. Correct? All right? I don't know about you. I would hate to think that we got pulled into something like the Germans did in the 1930s that then became something that was hard to stop. Right? You might realize, and I hope you do, that many German people turned against the fascists, right? They became challengers. Unfortunately, a lot of them died challenging, right? Let's hope that isn't where we're headed, the track that we're going to, okay? This magazine, the Daily News, is one of the ones that's promoting that Donald Trump is a fascist. And they're using a quote that actually came from World War II era, all right, to try to promote this. In World War II, there was a very famous pastor who gave a quote who said, when the Nazis first went after the Jews, he wasn't a Jew, so he didn't care. And then when they went after the Catholics, he wasn't a Catholic, he was Protestant, and he didn't care. And then when they came after him, he turned around looking for help, and guess what? There was nobody left, right? And so this magazine is trying to say that Trump went after the Mexicans, but I wasn't Mexican, so it didn't matter, okay? Then he went after the Muslims, I'm not a Muslim, it didn't matter, right? Do you think he can really do these promises that he's given to the people that helped to elect him only a few weeks ago? Okay. I heard somebody say a little while ago when I was talking about I had a plan when I was Hitler's thing, all right? And somebody said, you can have a plan, but what was it? If you notice, he didn't give a lot of details, did he? All right? But people were drawn to him. They were drawn to him because he talked simplistically to the people, did he not? All right? Mm-hmm. We made fun of him a lot with the SNL stuff, right? Okay, huge, okay, all right, all that stuff, okay? But understand that we were drawn to this man as a people, the Electoral College, okay? Because he promised to be coming out of the phoenix, rising out of the ashes, all right? I've read a lot of things in the last couple of weeks that say our system is so well written, so put together, that there's no way that he can consolidate power like Hitler will do, right? If you have any needs for me to clarify tomorrow when we start class. Oh crap, it's not tomorrow. Monday, all right? Yes?
I still don't really understand like xenophobia.
Okay, let's talk about xenophobia. Xenophobia is where you fear people who you deem aren't you, right? And you fear them usually and you use it to your advantage so you can push them out the way, right? Give you an example. The Jews is the best example there in Nazi Germany in the United States. Native American people, it was their country, all right? All right? They were deemed savages. They were deemed the bad guys. When you played cowboy and Indians when you were little, who were the bad guys usually? The Native Americans, whoever you played, okay, all right? Because it was a stereotype. So they deserved to be kicked out. Really? Why was that used? That's what xenophobia is done. It's used to get something. Well, so we could complete manifest destiny. So we could take all their land from them. So if we make them into the bad guys. Did that make sense? Everybody understand that? All right?
People saying that everyone voted for Trump is racist. It's like the same exact thing.
It's the same exact thing. All right? Again, I think a while ago David was saying, or maybe it was Ryan, you can't label everything, right? It's not all going to fit into an easy basket. But here's what I want you to get out of today's lesson. You've got to become active. Do you understand? You've got to care. The thing that will kill our country is apathy. Do you understand? I beg you to take this lesson today and understand two things. One, you've got to become an informed voter. And two, you surely don't want a fascist dictator running your country. All right? And so, I hope you have a wonderful, blessed weekend. Please come support your peers in the play, in the games that they play.